Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sichos Haran Shir. My name is Effie Sussman, and today we're going to be doing Sikha 91. So I'm very excited about this Sikha. It's like pretty straightforward piece. Lately, I've been getting a little bit more cryptic pieces, so they're just, harder to explain. But God willing, about, loving every person, loving every Jew, and God willing, we'll all enjoy this together. Okay. So let's jump right in. Sikha 91 in Sichos Haran. Okay. If you want to study with continuous diligence, be careful never to speak against a fellow Jew. When the bride is beautiful, love is perfect, from Shir HaShirim. But when the bride is blemished, love cannot be complete. The Torah is a bride. It is written, Moses charged us with the Torah, a heritage for the congregation of Jacob, from Devarim. The Talmud states, do not read Morashah, heritage, but Me'urasa, betrothed. Moses charged us with the Torah, the betrothed of the congregation of Jacob. Every Jew is a letter in the Torah. The 600,000 letters of the Torah parallel the 600,000 souls of the Jewish people. The Torah is the root of all the Jewish souls. If there is a defect in a single Jew, it is also a blemish in the Torah, the root of the Jewish souls. If so, it is impossible to fully love the Torah. Okay, so just to recap, and then I'll read a bit more. But Rabbi Nachman's basically saying here, if you want to become diligent and hardcore in your Torah learning, you need to be careful never to speak Lashon Hara, never to speak bad against a fellow Jew. And he gives this example about when the bride is beautiful, love is perfect. So the bride is the Torah. And when we talk bad against a Jew, we're really talking about, we're talking bad against the Torah, because every Jew, like their root soul is connected to a different letter in the Torah. There's 600,000 letters in the Torah, and at Har Sinai, there were 600,000 Jews there, and we're all mushkababbles of those root souls. So, so again, if you speak bad against a Jew, you're really like putting a defect in the Torah. So of course you can't fully love the Torah if you're talking bad against a Jew, because it's all connected here. But if you are careful not to speak against any Jew, then you will also find the Torah perfectly beautiful. You will then have a deep love for the Torah, for when the bride is beautiful, love is perfect. This great love will lead you to great diligence in your studies. It is written, God's Torah is perfect. It restores the soul, from Tehillim. Each Jew represents a letter in the Torah. When people neither seek out nor speak of the flaws in their fellow Jews, then the Torah is perfect, with neither flaw nor blemish. When God's Torah is perfect, then it restores the soul. When people find the Torah without fault, then their love makes them worthy of continuous diligence in its study. So Rabbi Nachman is telling us the trick here. How do we have this love and diligence and intensity when we learn Torah? We don't speak bad against our fellow Jew. That's how we can accomplish this. Just one line that I thought was interesting here that I want to point out in specific, when people neither seek out nor speak of the flaws. So Rabbi Nachman saying it's not enough just not to talk bad against your fellow Jew, but you have to not look for the flaws. You have to, I could connect to this by saying, like, we have to see people as a whole human being. We have to see them as a soul, not just like the petty things they do, it's definitely in a Buddha, it's something to work on. Like, we all know when we're in a low mood and we're annoyed, and then like anything anybody does gets on our nerves, right? And we're seeing this flaw in that person or that flaw in that person, but we have to like try and get out of that and see that every person is a soul, including us. We also have one of these amazing souls ourselves, and we have to try to relate to people in that way, in that light. So, so I wanted to take this a step further. I'm going to bring in a piece from Likutei Moharan, Torah 17. And he really talks about valuing ourselves and valuing the people around us. But I think just like simply, everybody knows when well, let's take the opposite extreme. When there's a bully, you know, everybody knows, oh, that person is mean and horrible and obnoxious, because like that's kind of how they feel about themselves, right? We always act how we feel about ourselves. And you know, in the opposite extreme, like when we're good to ourselves and when we're kind to ourselves and we have self-compassion and we love ourselves and see our worthiness, then that too, like all of a sudden, like everything around us is, you know, roses and flowers, and we see the beauty in other people. So I just, you know, lately, for different things that have been happening in my life and different conversations I've been having with very close friends, like self-compassion is a big deal. Like we have to see our innate worthiness that's within us and who we really are, and how every human being, Jewish, not Jewish, every human being, like we were all put here for a reason. And we kind of, it's so important to tap into this. So, okay, again, I'm going to get to this Likutei Moharan piece, Torah number 17. It's really powerful. We're only going to read a little bit of it because it's very long. And we don't have time on this platform, but it's a great piece and I highly recommend. So, again, Likutei Moharan, Torah number 17. So Rabbi Nachman's he's taking a pasuk from Bereshit, and he's going to elaborate it to bring out these points. And it's about Yosef, when Yosef and the brothers. Okay. Vayihi hein marikim shakehem v'hinei ish saror kaspo v'shakao. So, and it happened as they began emptying their sacks, that behold, each one's bundles of money was found in his sack. Excuse me. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they became frightened. Their father Yaakov said to them, "You're making me lose my children. Yosef is gone and Shimon is gone, and now you want to take Binyamin? All these things are happening to me." Okay, so now Rabbi Nachman's going to explain. It is impossible to receive fear and love except through the tzaddikim of the generation. This is because, so Rabbi Nachman is saying, just straight off the bat, like we receive fear and love of Hashem through the tzaddikim, like through them being and pulling down certain things from the world above, we're able to have this fear and love towards Hashem. For the tzaddik always seeks and searches for ways to reveal the will of the Holy One, for the Holy One's will is in everything. It is in the creation at large, namely that the Holy One willed to create the world generally, and it is in the particulars of creation. In each and every particular thing, there is the Holy One's will, namely that the Holy One willed this specific thing to be as it is, with its specific form, strength, and nature, whereas something else has a different form, a different strength, and a different nature and demeanor. So how does the tzaddik pull this love and fear from Shemayim? How does he pull it down to this world? So he does it by always searching and seeking the will of Hashem. Like he tries to understand why the world is the way it is. And through that, he's able, through understanding Hashem's ratzon, Hashem's will, he's able to pull down this love and fear. And Rabbi Nachman says it's in like why the world was created in general, and even in the particulars, like even in the small details. Okay, now the tzaddik always seeks and searches for this will to comprehend and understand the Holy One's will in each thing, such as, why was it the Holy One's will that the lion be created with the specific strength and power, the specific form and the specific nature and demeanor that the lion has, whereas conversely a small gnat is very weak and has a different nature, form, and demeanor. So again, he's not just looking at the general, he's looking at the particulars, like why a lion is the way a lion is, why a gnat is the way a gnat is, like what was Hashem trying to do here? How did it come to be? This is likewise the case for the details of a particular thing, such as in the lion itself. Why is one of the lion's limbs shaped as it is, having a specific strength and nature, while another limb has a different shape with a different strength, nature, and demeanor? The same applies to all created things in the world, mineral, vegetable, animal, and human. So the tzaddik's not just looking at one thing, he's looking at everything from plants to vegetables, minerals, animals, human, everything. He's trying to know God. That's really, I guess, the best way that I can think of explaining it. Trying to know Hashem through this world, through the creation. The differences between any one of these and the next are endless. Likewise, within each one itself, the dissimilarities in the details between one limb and the next are numerous, right? Like, why is one shard of grass longer than another shard of grass? You know, so the tzaddik tries to decipher and understand Hashem through it. This is likewise so for the grasses, the trees, and other particulars of creation. There are very many dissimilarities in all their forms, strengths, and demeanors. So there's differences in everything. And again, the tzaddik is like sifting through, trying to pull it out. This all came about because of the will of the Creator. May his name be blessed, in that he wanted one thing to be as it is and another thing to be as it is. And the tzaddik always searches after this will. So why are these things different? Because Hashem willed it that way, and nothing is by accident. So Hashem's willing one thing one way and another thing that way. And the tzaddik is, again, sifting through, trying to understand this. He comprehends and finds it through the pride that he finds in the Jewish people, collectively as individuals and in every detail of their lives. This is because the whole world was created only for the sake of the Jewish people, as our sages said in Vayikra Rabbah, Bereshit, in the beginning, for the sake of Israel, who is called Reshit, first. This is because Israel was the first in God's thoughts, from Bereshit Rabbah. In other words, the Holy One anticipated the pride and joy that he would have from the Jewish people. As it is written, Israel, I take pride in you, and it is for the sake of this pride and joy that he created the entire world. Thus, absolutely, the entire world was created only for the sake of the pride which God would take in the Jewish people. And this was the intention in all of creation, namely that the general creation was for the sake of the collective pride that he would take in the entity of the Jewish people. So Rabbi Nachman's saying here an amazing, amazing thing. He's saying, and it's from Gemara, from Bereshit Rabbah, from other places. He's saying that Hashem's whole intention of the whole reason why he created the world was so that way he could get this pride from Klal Yisrael, this nachas, this, just trying to find the word in Hebrew, hispa'arut, this like amazing pride that he gets from Klal Yisrael. And the tzaddik, he finds like the will of the Creator through the Jewish people, through understanding the pride that Hashem gets from the Jewish people. Okay, so too the particulars of creation. They were created for the particular pride he takes in Israel. So it's not just like in general, but even the particulars, even every detail of this world, again, was created for the pride that Hashem takes in Israel, that Hashem takes in Klal Yisrael. This is because each individual Jew possesses an innate worthiness for which the Holy One takes pride in him in particular. I'm just going to read this line one more time because this is the key line here, for me at least. This is because each individual Jew possesses an innate worthiness for which the Holy One takes pride in him in particular. And even the least worthy Jew, even Jewish sinners, as long as he is called Jew, being called a Jewish sinner, he possesses an innate worthiness for which the Holy One takes pride in him in particular. So Rabbi Nachman's saying here, the most amazing thing, he's talking about our innate worthiness. Like if you're here, like you were meant to be here, you're worthy. You're worthy. Like so many times we go through life and we think we don't deserve this, we don't deserve that, like who am I? But that's not what we're supposed to think. That's not how reality is. I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to think or what we're not supposed to think, but it's not reality. The reality is that we're worthy, right here, just being you are worthy. Even if you're a sinner, being called a Jewish sinner, even Hashem is taking pride from you being called a Jewish sinner, even that alone. I mean, it's like incredible thing. This is likewise the case for the details of a particular thing, for in each and every limb and in each and every movement of a Jew. So even like he's equating here the particulars of particular things. So Rabbi Nachman is saying even every limb we have, even every movement that we have, there's a different quality in which the Holy One takes pride. Thus, there are times when some base Jew does no more than shake his payas, shake his side lack, and the Holy One takes great pride even from this. So even from something as small as just, giving a little shekel, doesn't even have to be in tefillah. Hashem is taking an immense happiness in this because we're here to be here, and we were put here on purpose, not by accident. And and the fact that you're here shows that you're worthy. So I'm gonna stop reading Likutei Moharan here, but the piece goes on and it's really beautiful. Highly recommend. But I heard this story from Reb Shlomo Katz, who told this story about Reb Shlomo Carlebach and Bob Dylan, that he said that Reb Shlomo Carlebach, and Bob Dylan were being interviewed, and the interviewer asked Reb Shlomo Carlebach, "What's your dream? What's what's your dream in life?" And he said, Reb Shlomo Carlebach said, "To meet every single person in the world." And then the interviewer turned to Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was like, "That's my worst nightmare," But the point is, Reb Shlomo Carlebach, who definitely saw the souls of the people around him, it's this piece of trying to learn Hashem through every person that's here. Through every person that he meets. By learning other people's soul, he could understand Hashem better. I think that really helps understand this. But what I love about this piece, obviously, is that we just can never have enough reminders of how much we mean to Hashem. We're the whole point of creation. Hashem wants our nachas. Hashem wants our pride. He's rooting for us. We're everything. I think if we would walk around the world remembering this, then we would just see the value in ourselves, and like the original piece, like in those around us who also have these souls. Everybody has a soul. Okay, so I wanted to read one last short story from Likutei Moharan. I just think this story is so amazing. It's okay, it's a mashal. I'll read it and then we'll discuss a little. Okay. Why we should pray for our friends. We should pray for our friends. By the way, this is Likutei Moharan 447. Okay. We should pray for our friends when they are in trouble. Why our prayers for friends are effective can be understood from the story of a certain king who was angry with his son and sent him away. The prince came and placated his father, who agreed to have him back. But afterwards, the prince again offended his father, who sent him away again. Prince again placated his father, and the same thing happened several times. So there was a prince and a king, and the prince kept on angering his father, and the father kept on sending him away. And then the prince would come back and beg for mercy and placate him and calm him down. And then the king would always take him back. And this cycle just kept on happening again and again. Once the prince did something that made the father extremely angry. The king thought to himself, "What point is there in sending him away if later on, when my anger subsides, he comes and placates me again? This time, when I send him away, I will so arrange things that he will not even have access to me so as not to be able to placate me." So the king says, the prince did something horrible, and the king was like, "I'm not going to just send him away. I'm going to make sure he has no way to even come back to me, because every time we go through this cycle and it's not working." The king appointed one of his ministers as an intermediary between himself and the prince, instructing the minister that when the prince came seeking to placate him, he was not to allow him entry. The prince came several times asking to be admitted to his father in order to placate him. However, the minister would not let him enter, for those were the instructions the king had given him. This happened again and again. Eventually, the minister saw the prince's great longing for his father and saw how much he was suffering because of not being able to gain entry to his father in order to placate him. The minister thought to himself, "If this is how much the prince misses his father, presumably the king is also suffering a great deal because his son cannot come to him. For the greater the desire of he who desires, the greater the desire around and the object of his desire." The minister felt extremely sorry for both the king and his son, and he himself also suffered, because he said to himself, "Surely I am the cause of all of this. Since I am the barrier that keeps them apart, I am the one causing both the king and the prince to suffer." So the minister sees how much the prince wants to come back to the king, and it's the minister's job to prevent it. And the minister's thinking, "Oh my gosh, if this is the way the prince feels, imagine how the king must feel." And the minister is plagued by this and he feels horrible. He's like, I'm the barrier, I'm causing the separation. The minister thought to himself, there must be some way to bring about a reconciliation. Surely the king does not want his sons to suffer forever without being able to reach him, and the king himself must be suffering as a result. The minister realized that it was all up to him. I myself will go to the king to plead for the prince. I will ask the king to forgive him and allow him back. This is exactly what the minister did. He went to the king and told him how much the prince was longing for him, begging the king to forgive him. The king immediately agreed and restored the prince to his place. The meaning of the story is obvious. Whenever one of our friends is suffering, physically, mentally, spiritually, we should say, without doubt, I am the cause of this. Because of my sins, I myself am the barrier between the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be he, and the world. For the Holy One, blessed be he, constantly desires to bestow blessings of goodness upon his children. But because of my sins, I am the barrier that is holding all this back. The solution is for me, myself, to plead with the king on behalf of my friend. So Rabbi Nachman is saying the story that the meaning of this is basically we're the ministers and our friend who's suffering physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, you know, and then and the king is Hashem, and we should look at our friend and see his suffering and try to help him and plead to Hashem, plead to the king to help this friend. Basically, we're taking like responsibility on ourselves. Like if we see somebody acting not nicely, or if we see, you know, people behaving below themselves, like we have to like go to the King of Kings. We have to go to Hashem and daven for them and try to help them and take responsibility yourself. When a person does this, he will certainly not succumb to arrogance. The root of arrogance is when a person prides himself on having qualities which his friends lack. When a person believes that the only cause of his friend's deficiency, spiritual or material, is the barrier that he himself has erected between his friend and the Holy One, blessed be he, who wants to bestow blessings on all times, he will certainly not become arrogant. On the contrary, his pride will be broken and he will achieve genuine humility. So when you take responsibility for your friends, it takes away this level of pride that you have, and you see, like, we're all in this together. Like, that's really why I love this piece. Like, we're a team. Like, when you see, rather than talking bad about your friends or feeling threatened about your friends, so like looking at flaws and trying to find what's wrong in them, just like we're all a team. We're all here to you know, raise the awareness of God and to make things better, really. So again, I mean, I just love this Torah because I just felt like this whole concept is so organic, right? We've heard so many times not to speak Lashon Hara, not to judge our friends, but it's only really scratching the surface. Like, we need to understand why. We need to understand that everybody's a soul, like their root soul is connected to the Torah. We have to like look at people differently and see really where they're coming from. And we have to understand everybody's innate worthiness and the magnitude that we have and within us, and you know, feel responsibility for your friend, work as a team, work together. So okay, that's it for today. Thank you all for listening and have a wonderful day.